Hi, everybody. I am so excited. I finally get to sit down with Miss Becky Lauridsen. She is the founder of IOME, and we're going to get into that in just a minute, what IOME is and how she started it. This is the office that I reached out to back in 2020 when I started my true healing journey, to kind of sort through all of my traumas that I knew I needed to sort on so I could start a family of my own. That was like the big picture. And through this journey of self-healing, I realized how badly I wanted to help other women just take control of their own lives. And this was the best place to start. I figured, let's share the love and let's introduce Becky. Hi, Becky. Thanks for joining.
Hi, thank you so much, Lauren. I'm happy to be here.
You are the founder of IOME. Can you explain what IOME is?
Yes. So I founded this company about 6 years ago, and it's an IOME instead of an IOU. And our purpose is to create guilt-free self-care for everyone. Of course, we believe very much, because we're all licensed mental health providers. So we believe that the first step to self-care, to experiencing that true gift of guilt-free self-care, is to address our mental health. And so really we're taking that approach where we are doing things different. We're disrupting the traditional mental health scene. We're really passionate about taking a preventative approach to mental health and wellness, although it's never too late, of course, but we want to try to help support people on the earliest signs of past traumas coming up, or depression or anxiety or postpartum depression, anxiety and things like that. So that's our heartbeat, is to create that guilt-free self-care for everyone.
It's amazing, honestly. I didn't realize like the kind of help I truly needed until it was time for me and my husband to move forward with starting our own family. And so I reached out to my sister, Kristen, and I knew that she went down, the road of therapy, but I wasn't exactly sure what her journey was exactly. So I reached out to her and I explained, a couple of things about myself that I was really afraid to open up to about my family. And she told me, I've got the perfect office for you. I've got the best solution. And at that time, because of 2020 and the pandemic, I was able to do all of this through Zoom meetings, which was exactly what I needed, because I didn't want to do it with anybody else. I wanted to go with who my sister said, this is your place. So I reached out to you, Becky, and, you actually got me in touch with my therapist. And she was a perfect fit for me. And we just dived right into some scary stuff. But it's interesting with journeys, you go in it with the expectation of, okay, I just need to fix this one thing. But through so many conversations and working a little bit deeper, I realized there was way more, so many more levels that I needed to just kind of like sift through, let some things go. And I'm just so grateful to be standing in such a balanced place now in my life.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And hats off to you to lean into that, because I know it can be a really intimidating process. That's what we try to overcome, for sure. We try to create it to be very simple and accessible, but it can be really hard to just take that step forward because of that maybe fear of, like, if I focus on this thing, and what if all this other stuff comes up, and that can be really overwhelming. But sometimes we need it to do that, right? To try to achieve that true healing. So I'm incredibly proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I also have to say, I did try therapy years and years prior, and I wasn't ready. I was not ready. It was definitely done through ultimatums, and I was holding back so much because I wasn't ready to let go of so many secrets. I was so ashamed of so many things in my life. And I felt like no one could know about it, not even a paid therapist who's like trained to handle. But if you're not truly ready, it's a disservice to yourself. You are putting energy and time and money into investing in your health. But if you're not going to, truly like open up, dig deep, and just break through your walls, then you're not ready. So, I just have so much love and respect for, your office. Like, you guys have truly like helped me, start my life in a whole new way. And we're going to get into that. But like, with therapy, I thought it was so one-dimensional. I was like, okay, therapy is you sit on a couch across from the person, and it's everything that I saw in like TV and films.
Yep.
But when my sister told me about EMDR, I didn't really understand what that was. So can you please explain what EMDR therapy is?
Yes, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. It's a mouthful, but really what it is a trauma-based therapy, but there's so many more benefits that can be targeted with EMDR. And I'll give you kind of the overview of it, if you will, here as well. So it was developed back in the 1980s by Francine Shapiro. Big deal. It's incredible that this was able to be developed. It's a form of psychotherapy that was originally designed to alleviate distress associated, of course, with first and foremost traumatic memories, right? But it's also able to help support. Now studies have shown so many powerful benefits for depression, anxiety, sleep disturbances, sports performance. I mean, there's so many things that EMDR can help with as well. But of course, it was originated for trauma. It basically uses a combination of bilateral stimulation. So this could be eye movements where you're actually following my fingertips and going back and forth with your eyes. It could be tapping, physical tapping on somebody's knees, or even tapping like this. Or it could be what we typically use in my office is handheld tappers that vibrate back and forth. And so then you just get that back, forth, back, forth. And so what that essentially does is opens up neural pathways. So let me back up for a second. When a traumatic event happens, and can I preface this with the definition of trauma is anything upsetting that has a lasting effect.
Yes.
We all have trauma.
Mhm.
We have big T traumas and little T traumas. But I always share that because I think some people can be hesitant of like, well, I wasn't abused, or I didn't have these major traumas, or I didn't have XYZ, or I wasn't in the war, or right. They can attribute it to such big T traumas, but the little T traumas, like messages you heard when you were growing up, themes that you saw, it could be vicarious trauma that you witnessed, etc. So trauma, anything upsetting that has a lasting effect. Anyway, so when that happens, our brains hold on to it in our prefrontal cortex right here, front and center, right? And so can I use a car accident as an example? So if anybody has had a significant car accident, please be mindful of it, trigger warning. But if you go through that intersection, your brain holds on at the time of that accident. Your brain is holding on to everything, to the sound, to what you were wearing, of course, the intersection of the location, the weather, the smells, right? Obviously the physical pain that was associated to it. It is holding on to everything that you went through, and it's storing it right here, because the brain's number one job is to keep us safe. It's beautiful until it's not, right? It's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes too. So then when you hear a sound that's similar, or when that song comes on the radio again, when the same weather, you drive through that intersection, your brain is like, alert, alert, panic mode, fight, flight response, cortisol, adrenaline. We have to protect you because the last time we heard that song, the last time we smelt that, the last time we felt that, we were in a car accident. So we got to do everything to avoid that from happening again. Your brain's only holding on to the one memory that you weren't safe. It's not remembering the thousands of other times that you've been in a car and have been completely safe before. So it's wild, right? It's so cool. Again, beautiful. It's incredible the way our brains are made and how we were developed and how God created us. And it's a little bit of a pain in the butt because we have to be able to live life. We have to be able to continue to drive or go through that intersection or whatever it may be. And so that EMDR is what opens up through that bilateral stimulation, that back and forth. It opens up those neural pathways to be able to desensitize those triggering events, desensitize those symptoms and responses, and remember that it's just a memory. It's not that it erases anything. It's not that it does anything crazy like that or completely shut that out of your brain or repress it where you don't think about it anymore. It's just that the next time you drive through that intersection, your brain's like, oh yeah, that happened. totally fine. You're able to stay in rest and digest mode, which is really powerful.
Yes. And I do have to say, as far as it goes with like doing the process, I was in EMDR for months, and we started with once a week. And then eventually it came down to once every 2 weeks. Then it went to once every 3 weeks. And then it became a once a month until it was like, I think I'm okay. I think I'm good. But you're right. The memory doesn't go away, but it doesn't haunt you the way that it used to. It doesn't have that death grip on you the way that it used to. So for me, I've been pretty open about my childhood trauma. And for me, it was like a death sentence. It felt like a death sentence every time I had to go to a gynecologist appointment. I literally would be like, okay, I will schedule it 3 months from here, and I will be prepared by the time I get to that point. But every day was a reminder, oh, I'm one day closer, I'm one day closer. And for a lot of people, they won't understand that, and that's okay. But for me, it was like time just coming, and I knew it, and it was starting to, really upset me to the point of the day where I had to make sure I had the day off just to have this kind of appointment, because after the fact, I felt like I was back into my trauma so viciously. Driving my car back to my apartment, I would just crawl into bed and I would not function for the rest of the day. It was a day that I had to have my whole day blacked out so that I could regroup. And then the next day I could move on and go, okay, great. I don't have to do that again for another year. But that's not living.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
And I think for anybody that, like you talked about, big T's and little T's, even just one sentence can destroy a person's confidence. Somebody, has fat shamed you or anything like that. That is a trauma, and it will linger with you, will haunt you for as long as like you hold it. And if you can't work through that, then great. The memory will still be there, but it won't have this hold on your shoulders anymore. And that's what I loved so much about EMDR. You guys weren't telling me, we're going to erase it completely. You're going to forget about it. It never existed. And that's not true. The existence is there, but you don't have to allow it to control you any longer. And that's when I found my freedom.
That's so good.
I found my light and my freedom. And even in the processes of having an exam done, I have my own way of getting through it. And the best form that I got out of EMDR was the communication aspect. I started to communicate to anybody that was going to have to give me those kind of services, and just let them know, like, transparently, this is what happened. And, I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one.
Oh, yeah.
And every woman I've worked with, because I've chosen women only, they have been so gentle and so sweet and kind of tell me exactly what they're going to be doing. And they always tell me, you tell me no, you tell me stop. And they've made me so comfortable. But it wasn't fair to the other doctors in the beginning of my process that had no idea. And I just had like a freak out moment on the table.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
I can't stress enough how amazing EMDR therapy is. I did put down some notes here. The reasons why I did reach out, it wasn't just for, having a baby and getting me through those exams. It was also, I had major fears because I've had body and self-esteem issues all my life. Fear of becoming pregnant and fear of what pregnancy and delivery would do to my body. And that's just related to my body dysmorphia issues. The exams, and then I did have fear of hospitals, doctors, dentists, because of negative experiences as a child. And also abandonment issues. And that in itself, like, really, just like we talked about earlier, just going through all of the layers to just kind of sort everything out. And I think it was, for me, the key to my success was putting control in my hand.
Yeah, that's good.
And, because I grew up in a small town, and we didn't have a whole lot of options or choices. So it was kind of ingrained in me that this is our only option. This is the only person we can see. So you have to suck it up. Well, I took that mentality to California, where it's the land of opportunities. There's a dentist on every corner.
Sure.
And
Yep.
for so long, I had it ingrained in me that I don't have a choice. This is the office I started with. They're the office I have to finish with. And my therapist gave me that freedom to say, oh, no, hon, you can change your mind. You can pull your insurance and go to another second opinion. She's like, we got to get you out of this funk of what you were taught and what you believe. And, you know, I think that it's an incredible journey of your own self. And, you know, I wanted to share this with women, like how powerful EMDR can be. And even if it's not EMDR, therapy in general, just it's the conversation that has to continue on about mental health awareness.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think it can be as obvious or subconscious as it is, right? Like, I think so many of my clients can come in and they dismiss what they have gone through, or they dismiss these messages that they heard as children, or they're hearing now in their relationships, because they can just be so quick to discredit it. Oh, it's not that big of a deal, right? It's not that, it shouldn't be a big deal. I'm not going to let it be a big deal. But our brains are wiring it to be a big deal, right? And we don't have control over that. And I think one of the most beautiful gifts of EMDR, and you can let me know if you agree with this, is when I've received it as a client, I don't have to overthink it, right? I don't have to should it and will it to be and be so controlling over it. In EMDR, you sit back, you hold the tappers or you do the eye movements, and you allow your brain to do whatever it needs. And the brain knows exactly what it needs, and it will bring up the stuff that it knows it needs to bring up. And it could feel very irrelevant. It could be totally on topic and on point and expected, or it could be unexpected, right? It could be messages like, even if you were raised in a perfect childhood, right? Perfect family. Your parents constantly praised you and said, you're so perfect, you're so perfect, you're so perfect. Well, I feel like that's trauma too, because now you have this unrealistic expectation of perfection, and we need to rewire that, right? We need to desensitize that, because hate to break the bad news, but nobody's perfect, right? No thing is perfect. So that, even that extreme of an example, but it's really powerful to just allow your brain to bring up what it needs to heal.
And just a side note, I'm just thinking of this question as we're talking about it. Can EMDR help you forgive yourself of past mistakes that you're holding on to?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's there for. Because if we have this pattern, as you may have experienced in your sessions, we target a negative cognition during the EMDR process. And so it's the cognition of, I'm not good enough, or I made a mistake, or it was my fault, right? This is the belief that the brain has wired, the thought has wired around the memory, the event, right? And so what we do in EMDR is, our purpose is to completely banish that thought, that belief. We are like, our purpose is to desensitize it, yes, but we really want to completely combat that and put a positive cognition. So then our job is to figure out, what do we want to believe instead? That I am good enough, that I'm allowed to make mistakes, that I am successful, whatever it is, right? And what we need to do is figure out, and we do this float back technique, if you will. And if it was an early childhood event or something that we need to like kind of forgive ourselves in, then we replay that, kind of like a movie screen. Like, you're pretending that you're watching the movie, you have the remote control, and you're pushing pause, rewind, stop, skip, etc. And you're going to those memories in your brain that are stored, that you're beating yourself up over, or that it's my fault kind of narrative. Then we're going there and we're opening up the neural pathways. We're doing the bilateral stimulation by doing that, and we're rewiring it. So once that's desensitized, then we're turning around and saying, I'm allowed to make mistakes. I am good enough. It wasn't my fault. I am safe now, right? And whatever that sticks the most for that person. And then our job is to replace that old wiring with the new wiring of, I am good enough, right? And so then again, it's just desensitizing this like emotional, but also physical response that we can have to these traumas or to the negative cognition.
Wow. It really is incredible. It's such a amazing path of healing. Like I wish everybody could just like go and do it because it's so beneficial. It really is beneficial. You know, when we're going to talk about our May event here in just a minute, but with your office, I received a free consultation to find me the correct therapist, but also like, is there a different therapy that you guys offer besides EMDR when someone contacts you?
Yeah. Yep. So I will say EMDR may not be, well, I know it's not for everyone. It just won't be. One, there's certain things like obviously physical responses, like if somebody, epilepsy, or if they dissociate easily, or if, it's things like that. And even if they have to, go to court and defend or whatever, go to trial, right? So there's circumstances where EMDR would not be appropriate because we don't want to desensitize this thing that they were had a traumatic event over and then have to go testify in court. And then the jury's like, oh, she doesn't seem upset about this at all. Does that make sense? So there's things that we are going to ask to make sure that they're a good fit. But then probably the biggest thing is, you already said it earlier, Lauren, is are they ready? Right. And that's okay. That is okay if they don't know that they're ready yet. And so obviously coming in and working through anything with any of our therapists could be really beautiful gift, because each of our therapists really do niche and like specify in certain areas. They have different vibes. They have different like, approaches, and it's all about that therapy, that therapeutic rapport. And if you don't have it, you're not going to get success, period. It could be the best therapist in the world. And if it's not a good fit, there's no progress to be made. So there's always CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's DBT. There's, of course, there's like solution focused motivational interviewing, things like that. There's also like, we do walk and talks. And so naturally, if you are walking, what's happening? There's this bilateral back and forth stimulation happening as we're walking and talking about things. So that can be a very natural way to do it. That's not quite as intimidating maybe as like true EMDR, because I'm sure you can attest, it's tough. It's heavy. It's exhausting. You can have a headache afterwards. But man, it's good. It's good. It's worth it, every minute of it, but it can be really intense. So there's some different things we can lead up to it for sure.
It can be. I mean, like I said, we were doing it in 2020 during pandemic. My husband is in the kitchen working from home in our tiny little apartment. I'm in the bedroom on my bed with the computer, and I would just come out just sobbing, and my husband would hug me, and I said, it's fine. Like, I'll be fine. But it does bring up a lot. It brings up a lot out of you emotionally, but it literally is just clearing it. It's clearing it. It's tough. It can be tough, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Even if it's not EMDR, any type of therapy, it's just worth it to sift through whatever you got to sift through so you can live your best life.
And I always say, do the hard thing now so you can be free from it forevermore, right? Because you could wait another year and think, man, I really should do it. Or you could do it today and have a whole year of freedom, a whole extra year of freedom. Again, it's never too late. My heart for sure knows that. And we will welcome anyone at any stage. But if willing and able, the better, the earlier, the better.
Absolutely. So what are some good resources for people looking for the specific kind of therapy? If they're not coming to you, like where's a good place for them?
So honestly, if they go to like psychologytoday.com, you can search specifically EMDR trained therapists, and then you can filter that way. Most therapists, I would say, do accept like a free consult of some kind, right? So I would wildly recommend doing that. And shopping for a therapist, right? Just like we would shop for a house, we're not going to just go and buy the first house that we see. I mean, maybe like in the market of 2020, maybe, but not anymore, right?
Right.
So you want to shop the person. You want to find out who's going to be the best fit. EMDRIA, it's EMDRIA.org. That is the specific website that you can find trainers and practitioners, and then a lot more information and resources via that website as well. That's like the founding website. The cool thing about EMDR too is that there's so many scientific studies about it, because let's be clear, therapy is kind of tricky, right? There's a lot of gray area in therapy. It's not like it's a broken bone and then we can take an x-ray and we can see that it's healed. So therapy can be very elusive in that. But EMDR, we can actually take a brain scan, see the trauma where the brain is firing more, and then do EMDR and then take another brain scan and see that it's settled down. So that's pretty cool in itself too. And then if you guys wanted more information about any of our EMDR therapists, there's how many, 3 or 4 of us that are EMDR trained. You can go to our website at iomenow.com. So I'm sure we can share that with everyone.
Yes, absolutely. I am going to be featuring you on my Women to Know and Follow portion of my blog. So I'm going to have your bio up there, your picture, and your website, and also your social media. I think everybody would really benefit from watching you. As soon as I added you, I started seeing you doing the cold plunging.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, it's so fun.
Everything about it is revolved around health and well-being. Like I just want to support and watch. I'm thoroughly like just ingrained in just doing things daily for, goodness of my soul, goodness of my mind, and of my body. So
good stuff.
I have to say the May event, everything that we have been working on towards has been such a labor of love. And, I'm so grateful that the initial email I sent to you, you guys, I went out on a limb and I just thought, I had this vision of helping women in 2024. And I thought, how can I do this? Like through a lot of meditation and prayer, I reached out to Becky and I said, hey, I want to help women in 2024. I would love to start a fundraiser, raise money for women to receive their very first session of therapy through donations covered by it. And, Becky opened her arms up to me and said, absolutely. Let's figure this out together. And we've been working very hard on this. May, there is an event at the Maxline Brewery House in Fort Collins. And can you just tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening at the May event?
Yeah, this is all thanks to big shout out to Ashley Brund, our community partner coordinator. She is a rock star therapist, first and foremost, specializes with kiddos, but then also excellent community connector, right? Wouldn't you agree? So she has partnered with Maxline Brewery, IOME has, and we are doing an event on May 11th, and it is from 11 to 5, right? Make sure you're fact checking me, Lauren. Yeah, it's going to be a super fun event. We have our preferred partners. So we really go out there. We believe in holistic self-care. So we've gone out and we've personally vetted our self-care partners, everything from massage therapists, acupuncturists, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, etc. And we've invited these guys, the select few, to join in on this event so people can come and get to know our therapists and ask questions. Get to know some of these self-care partners as well. Lauren, you're going to be there, and there's going to be fun food trucks and just a good brews, of course, and just good community and connection. That's all about mental health awareness. So we will have lots of fun swag to give away. I don't even know. I tried to calculate the gift basket that she's gotten of donations. I mean, we're over $1,000 worth of gifts to give. So definitely come for that reason in itself. Maybe, I don't know. I like things, so come win some goodies.
It's awesome. I'm so excited for it. And, everything that I was working towards, and when I started to talk to you about it, I said, I want to raise money and I want to do it in May, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and you're like, well, we're actually doing something in May, like let's just bring you in on it. And then the virtual 5K that we are still working on building, that is a process if anybody has built one before. So just hang in there with me, guys, on that information. But we are going to be doing a virtual 5K for the entire week of the 12th through the 18th to raise more money for women to receive their first session covered through donations, as well as, spreading mental health awareness. We're going to be wearing green because green is the color of, mental health awareness, but it's also about positivity. And I think, isn't it like a rebirth? Like green is like rebirth. It's going to be so much fun. And I'm hoping that everybody will want to join us because it's a conversation that should never stop. Mental health is so important. I feel like it's almost more important than the physical health, which like that's contradicting in a lot of ways, but like I feel like your mind, your soul, if it's not connecting well, it's not going to connect with you physically either.
Totally. Yep.
And the decisions you make for yourself. So I'm so excited. I'm just so excited. And the money is coming to a IOME scholarship fund. So that way, anybody that calls, you'll get your free consultation to find your right therapist. And then once you have your first session, it is covered through these donations. So there were a few questions from some people when I was explaining this. Can anybody across the United States work with you, or are we still having issues with like certain states?
Yep. So there are some tricky pieces with that. It depends on the state, in all honesty. If your state allows the cross of the border for like state licensure and whatnot, some states do. So then if that's the case, then great, we can continue to see you. If not, because there's a handful of states that don't allow that, we do have a certified health and wellness coach that you could utilize with IOME for the more solution-focused accountability pieces. And then her role can help support you in finding a therapist in your area and kind of be able to help support you in the accountability of working with the best fit therapist in your state. So there's going to be a couple of options if needed, if it is indeed in a state that we can't work with.
And is that just because of insurances?
It's just because, it has to be more complicated than it needs to be, right? Like, I don't know any other example.
Right.
I mean, yes, each state has different certification processes and training recommendations or requirements and things like that. And so I see why they did it, because of those. It's up to the state on how much they require or whatnot. But in all honesty, it's dang near the same across the board. So there is a movement, and it should be going away in the near future, but it's just a matter of waiting for, big people to make big decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's just so rewarding to just be working with a company like yours.
Thank you.
I mean, I can't say enough how much your office and the therapist I work with just opened my life up to a whole new perspective, and it gave me this freedom. And I tell people that my life really started after I received the help that I needed. And of course, after I had my beautiful son, like I have purpose. I have the purpose that I was seeking so much for. And, I wish I had this epiphany or strength when I was in my 20s, because it would have saved me a whole lot of hurt. My journey is something that I'm actually very proud of. Even if it was dark and scary, I am so proud of just the person that I've like grown into. And I thank therapy a lot for that, because it gave me the tools and the courage to just kind of go through the murky waters and come out on the other side. So I encourage everybody to receive any type of help that they need. And I love that your office is there to support you, even if it's not through services that you could provide. It's just about getting people help. And that's the most important, most beautiful part of this. So thank you, Becky, so much for all of this, explaining to us what EMDR therapy is. And, you know, I look forward to sharing like what we're doing in May, and is going to be seeing that. So, you know, more details to come with the 5K and stuff, but I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you so much for taking your time out with me today, just to kind of go through all of this with us.
Yep. Thank you for spreading the word, friend. It's such a big deal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to talk soon.